Hey everybody, I'm Patrick and welcome to Rocky Mountain Style. Today is a special video for me and one I'm thrilled to be making because I'll be introducing or maybe reintroducing regular wristwatch content back onto the channel. When I first started, I tried my hand at a few watch videos. I think 4 of them are on the channel currently in the watches playlist if you want to check out my earlier work. But I quickly learned that having a poor camera, bad lenses, and really no experience and no skill was not a good combination to make good watch content. So I kind of put that on the back burner. Now, though, I'm ready to continue doing wristwatch content, which is really exciting for me. So I've got a new camera, got a little more skill. I've looked into some things. I've been doing some research. So hopefully this content's a little better and something that you want to see. So if you are new here because you clicked on this because it's a watch video and you don't normally watch my boots or jacket kind of content, would really appreciate you subscribing and going on this journey with me. I'll be doing a lot of content on my new pickup, which is what we're talking today, the Rolex 214270 Explorer. I also have several other watches I'll be doing content on as well. I have a new pickup that I should be getting on Friday that will be pretty exciting as well. Going to do just all sorts of stuff. I'll be trying to reach out to brands, maybe get some things into review. So it's an exciting time for me, and I hope you'll go on the journey with me. So today's video, I want to talk about the new Explorer. I want to talk about the Rolex CPO program, the Certified Pre-Owned program, and why ultimately I was comfortable paying a little bit more through the CPO program and sort of how that process went. And maybe, if you're interested in a Rolex that is available through your AD through the CPO program, maybe this will give you the confidence to do that, or maybe this will cement your belief that, hey, there's no reason to ever pay $1 more than you have to. I'll keep buying, online or from whoever else. So please stick around and we'll chat about all that stuff. Thanks. Now, as you all know, this is not a new watch. My particular 214270 is a 2013 model. There's a lot of videos on YouTube about these, reviewing them, talking about how they're great everyday watches, talking about how they wear extremely well at 39 millimeters, all that good stuff. I agree with that, and I'm not going to rehash everything because I'm sure you've all seen it. However, just for the sake of completeness, I am going to go over the specs real quick because, hey, what's a watch video without specs, right? The Rolex Explorer 214270 Mark I has a diameter of 39 millimeters. Depending on who's measuring it, generally you see it slightly less, maybe 38.5. It has a thickness of 11.2 mils, lug to lug of 47.4 mils, a lug width of 20 mils, which is perfect for tons of different straps. It weighs 132 grams, sized to my 18 centimeter wrist. It's powered by a chronometer grade Rolex caliber 3132 and uses a flat sapphire crystal and the wonderful oyster steel bracelet that has 5 millimeters of quick adjust. And now with that out of the way, I want to set the scene for how I ended up with this particular Explorer on my wrist today. So about 5 years ago, I got back into watches in a heavy way. I've always been a fan. I had wristwatches as a child, as a teenager, as a college student. I was wearing things like Citizens, Timexes. My parents weren't spending big money on me, and when I was in my 20s, I wasn't spending big money on myself. But I always liked wristwatches. I liked how they complete an outfit. I like how they say that you took the extra time to think about that piece. Perhaps some will say it's a accessory of a bygone era with our smartphones and things like that, which technically it's probably true, but I like them. I like how they make me feel when I wear them. So I've always been a fan. So I got back into watches about 5 years ago, started looking at Swiss automatics, started looking at Japanese automatics, all that kind of stuff. I'd never had a mechanical watch before, but I started watching YouTubers, and the first person I came across that really I connected with was the Urban Gentry and TGV. And he, of course, has a Rolex Explorer that he loves. It's a 36 millimeter. I think it's the 14270. If that's wrong, I'll put the other reference up here. But he talked about how it was a watch that did a lot of things. It could be dressy, it can be sporty, it can go out and do things. It can be unassuming, it can be flashy if you want it to be flashy. So really an everything type of watch. And at first I was kind of like, this is pretty boring. If I was ever going to get a Rolex in the future, it would definitely have to be a GMT Master or a Yacht Master or something like that, right? But over the years, as I bought dive watches, Seiko Turtles, or I bought Pilots watches or other things like that, I got more and more in tune with minimalism, I guess we'll call it. Smaller bezels, smaller diameter cases, perhaps less flashy watches in general. And as I did that, my affinity for the Rolex Explorer increased. And so eventually I got to the point where I was ready to pull the trigger on buying some pricier watches, exploring this side of the hobby more. And so I let my authorized dealer, who I had previously bought an Omega from, I let him know, hey, I'm interested in a 39 millimeter Explorer. Now, this was right before Rolex discontinued the 39 millimeter Explorer, like literally just a little bit before. And they went to the 36 millimeter option, which unfortunately I wasn't interested in. So I kind of put that desire on the back burner. And I'd never actually had a 39 millimeter Explorer on wrist. So I wasn't comfortable buying it from an online dealer without literally ever having seen it in person. So I kind of just forgot about it for a while. Then enter the CPO program and the realization that, hey, I could probably go check out a 39 millimeter Explorer at some point, with someone I know, with someone I trust, and I could perhaps make a decision that way. So I let him know, hey, if you get one in, I'd like to see them. Mark 1 or Mark 2 are both okay. The common detractors of the Mark 1 dial, as many of you watching this probably already know, the shorter handset that's from the previous 36 millimeter version, so the hands are a little bit short, and then the all gold, all white gold Arabic numerals, providing a little less legibility and maybe a little too much dressiness for a sport watch. Neither one of those things bother me. To me, honestly, the hands seem fine. Maybe my eye doesn't see proportion well, but they don't really look too small to me. I think they're okay. I can tell the time just fine looking at it. I don't really feel they look that out of place. And I actually prefer the all gold Arabics because I prefer my watch of this kind to be slightly dressier. If I'm actually needing a sport watch, I'm going to wear a G-Shock. A G-Shock destroys every Rolex for every reason if you're actually outside doing anything, right? So I don't care how sporty it is. It's not a sport watch. You may disagree. Let me know in the comments if that's a ridiculous statement. But if you're doing real sports work, you're not going to wear a Rolex. So ultimately, I'm good with this particular watch here. So a couple of weeks ago, I was talking to my dealer and he had good news. He said, hey, guess what? We just got a 214270 in. If you want to come check it out, I'll hold it for you until you can get up here. My dealer's in Denver. I live in Colorado Springs. So sometimes it does take some planning to get enough time to drive up there, check things out, and drive home. So thankfully, I went up, checked it out. Of course, as soon as it went on wrist, I fell in love with it. I was a little surprised at that. A lot of people say their Explorers were kind of a slow burn, that they were actually disappointed at first. And then over time, they enjoyed it more and more and ultimately fell in love with it. I was the opposite. As soon as I put it on, it fit so well and it just felt right that I knew that that's kind of what I wanted to do. Rolex's CPO program has two main draws, at least according to Rolex. The first being a guarantee of authenticity. Now, you can generally get this through any reputable dealer. It's in general for people in the know, not too hard to tell a counterfeit or tell when parts have been changed, things like that. But from what I understand, and it's not mentioned here, but from what I understand of researching other people's contents, Rolex also has a known stolen type of a list, which they can track your watch against that, and no one else has access to it. So it's a guarantee that it's 100% legit. So you do get a second hang tag if you have box and papers like myself. You get the original hang tag, and now I also have this second hang tag. I know hang tags are really sweet. You also get, of course, a warranty. You get 2-year warranty from the date of purchase. So in general, you'll usually get some sort of a warranty from any reputable dealer for a year, maybe, perhaps longer. So this is of middling monetary value, I'd say. If you, depending on your risk tolerance and how you want to calculate that sort of thing, maybe a couple $100 at most worth of value from something like that. And then, of course, you also get a distinctive pouch, as Rolex says. It is pretty cool, but definitely not a reason to pay a ton of extra money over something else. So with that said, I want to talk a little bit about why I was okay going with the CPO program. Okay, first things first, I'm sure each CPO program differs by dealer. I know Rolex has some overarching things that have to be done and probably have to be adhered to, but my guess is that final price is probably ultimately up to each authorized dealer. Now, a lot of videos I've watched, which several of them are many months old, it's hard to find a lot of new stuff on this. were claiming that prices are 20, 25, even 30% higher than they should be based on comparable watches at maybe more common online or local used retailers. So thankfully for me, that wasn't the case. I did pay a little more than comparables. So basically a 214270 Mark One with box and papers. I ended up paying about 12% more than the few examples that I could find online of those watches. However, I was okay with that. So as I mentioned before, I'd never had this on wrist, and I wanted to make sure I had it on wrist first. So I wasn't going to just buy one online sight unseen. Some of you may have a higher risk tolerance than I do, but buying something I've never held in hand and it being so pricey, shipping back and forth in the mail, dealing with the return, I just didn't want to do that. Secondly, I'm still at the beginning of my luxury watch collecting journey. So this is something that I really enjoy. I really have a passion for. I love reading about watches. I love looking at them. I like wearing them. I like how they make me feel. So I want this to be a lifelong pursuit. So, given that I'm at the beginning of my journey, I'm still in that phase of trying to build a relationship with an AD. I know it's sometimes unsavory. I know we probably all hate that we have to do it. But at the end of the day, the more you buy over time, the more likely you are to get watches you want in the future and be offered more interesting pieces, from various different brands, not only Rolex. So investing a little bit now could potentially pay dividends in the future. So that was another reason why I was okay, spending say 12% extra on this watch. Another reason I'm okay with paying a little extra is just the fact that I have no desire to sell this watch. It's not a plan to sell it at any point in the future. So if I have this watch, I'm 39 years old right now. Say I'm halfway through my life. Say I live to 78, although hopefully I live a little longer than that. I get to enjoy this for a really long time. And so at the end of the day, a little bit of extra money spread across that many years is not a big deal whatsoever. So when you think about it that way, and you're not thinking about it in terms of a transaction or maybe just a line on a spreadsheet trying to plot increases and decreases in your net worth, it's okay. If you're going to buy something, you want to keep it, you want to enjoy it, you can spread that extra cost mentally over a longer period of time, and it helps lessen the blow, right? And then fourth, this is complete unfound speculation on my part, and I don't really think there's any data on this because the CPO program's too new. But if I had to guess, I would say that if you had two identical watches selling from the same, reputable used dealer, say 10 years from now, and one of them was CPO'd and then one owner, and the other was just bought used and had, an owner or two, both have box and papers, both are the same year and all that. I think there's a good chance that you might get a slight amount more for your watch that at some point was CPO'd because you're going to end up with that extra little carrying case. And you get the extra peace of mind knowing it's been run through their stolen database. At least at some point it has been. So perhaps that won't matter at all. Perhaps they'll be exactly the same in 10 years, one that hasn't been through CPO and one that has. But I think there's at least some non-zero chance that you might get an extra 100, 200, 300 bucks for it down the road. So again, that's another small piece that helps lessen the blow of going with the CPO program. So I had a good experience. I was okay with the extra money. I knew going in what I was getting myself into. There were no surprises. And at the end of the day, I feel comfortable with my purchase. It feels more like I bought a new watch than a used watch. So if you kind of think the same way I do, perhaps CPO program would be okay for you. And if not, if you just want to buy it as cheap as you can find it on whichever used website you can find, that's totally okay also. All right, so real quick, general thoughts on the watch, and then we'll end. I think we're getting long enough here. So I'm about 3 weeks into ownership. I've worn it nearly every day. I absolutely love it. I don't see any reasons why I would ever want to get rid of it. Just a really enormous fan. And I'm looking forward to doing a little more content on it in the future. So after I've had it on wrist, maybe 6 months and then in a year, I'll probably do some update videos talking about what my thoughts are. I'll be featuring it on Instagram. I'll be doing all sorts of stuff on Watch Crunch, not specifically with this, but just with my watches in general. And as I mentioned before, I have a bunch of other watch content coming up. So if you've made it this far through my video, I really appreciate it. And I would just absolutely love if you would subscribe. Don't worry about hitting the bell icon. I know we don't always want to get spammed with stuff, but if you just hit that subscribe button, if you like watch content or if you like boots, jackets, or just, menswear in general, I have some exciting stuff coming up. Big plans for the channel. So as I continue to grow into 2,000 subscribers and beyond, hopefully my videos get better and better. If you have any questions or any comments, you just want to chat, please leave something below. Even if you just want to argue, I like to argue as well. It's good times. I don't mind confrontation. So drop a comment below and I will reply to every comment. And yeah, that's about it. I really appreciate your time today, guys. Thanks a lot.